He did this. He did this. Take him. Take him. Cersei Lannister has just watched her son die. Within 3 seconds, she has already identified the killer. The terrifying part is not that she accused him. It's that she had already decided, long before tonight, that he would be guilty of whatever came next. Tyrion became the perfect scapegoat the moment he was born. Watch how a family system designates its monsters, and why Cersei needed one to survive the loss of her son. There is one accusation in this scene that looks like a mother's desperate grief. The novels reveal it as something far more calculated, a woman activating a narrative she had already prepared. Stay until the end. I will show you how Cersei had already convicted Tyrion weeks before Joffrey died. To calculate the atmospheric pressure of the Red Keep on this night, we must understand the architecture of Cersei's fear. First, Cersei Lannister has spent this entire feast watching her power transfer to someone else in real time. Margaery Tyrell is not competing for Joffrey. She is replacing him. More precisely, she is teaching Joffrey to choose her leadership over his mother's. Cersei raised Joffrey to be her instrument of control. Now the instrument is learning to answer to someone else. Second, Tyrion Lannister represents everything Cersei cannot control and everything she refuses to see in herself. He is the family member who has witnessed her cruelty, survived her hatred, and remained unbroken by it. He is the one person in the Lannister house who can name what she is. He is the threat. Third, Joffrey has become a problem. He is unstable. He hurts people without purpose. He is embarrassing the family. And Cersei is beginning to understand, on some level she will never admit, that she may have made something uncontrollable. These three forces, the loss of Joffrey to Margaery, the existence of Tyrion as a witness, and the terror of having created a monster, collide at the Purple Wedding. And they need a villain to survive.
Thank you. Brienne. My brother safely to King's Landing.
Cersei's words to Brienne are not gratitude. They are a warning wrapped in courtesy. Brienne took Jaime and returned him damaged. Cersei has not forgotten. She will not forgive. And Brienne will be marked for it. This is how Cersei operates. She catalogs every slight, every person who has failed to submit to her will, and she waits. Brienne is no longer useful. Brienne is now an enemy. Watch what happens when Margaery enters the frame.
Everyone! The Queen would like to say a few words.
Margaery does not announce. She performs. And Cersei watches from the margin of her own feast, understanding clearly that she is being displaced. Margaery is not just marrying Joffrey. She is systematically teaching him to see her as the superior authority. Cersei built her entire identity on her ability to control this boy. Now she is watching that control evaporate. This is not humiliation. This is erasure. This is where scapegoating begins. Scapegoating, a psychological and social mechanism in which a group or individual transfers all blame, shame, and fear onto a single designated target, allowing the rest of the system to remain blameless. Cersei did not invent Tyrion as a villain tonight. He was already assigned that role years ago. He is the family scapegoat, the one onto whom all of Cersei's failures, all of her family's dysfunction, all of her rage at powerlessness can be safely projected. But at this moment, watching Margaery steal her son, Cersei needs him more than ever. She needs a villain who is weak enough to blame, vulnerable enough to destroy, and close enough to make the accusation land with weight.
Uncle!
Imitation of your own true king wins hours before his wedding. Fine vintage.
Joffrey is humiliating Tyrion for an audience. He is performing cruelty the way Cersei taught him, as a show of power. But Joffrey is also humiliating Cersei, and Cersei sees it. He is defying her by choosing his own victims, selecting his own moments of cruelty, operating independently of her instruction. This is the first time in the night that Cersei must confront an impossible truth. Her son is not her creature anymore. He is becoming someone else's. And Tyrion is standing right there, holding the cup that will kill Joffrey, holding the evidence of his own guilt that Cersei will need in exactly 3 seconds.
Kneel.
Joffrey demands kneeling. He is not asking for respect. He is demanding absolute submission. And when Tyrion refuses, something shifts in Cersei's understanding of her son. He has learned cruelty too well. He has become what she made him, and now he is becoming worse than that. He is becoming unpredictable. He is becoming dangerous. He is becoming the very thing Cersei fears, uncontrollable power. But Cersei will never confront this fear directly. Instead, she will project it outward. She will find someone to blame for the monster Joffrey is becoming. She will find someone to blame for her loss of control.
Good. Needs washing down.
Joffrey drinks. His throat closes. He collapses. And Cersei's world shatters. But not because she has lost her son. She has lost her last instrument of power. The child she raised to obey her is gone. The boy she was using to maintain control over the Lannister name, the throne, the kingdom, gone. And standing there, holding the empty cup, is the one person in her life she has already designated as guilty of everything she refuses to see in herself. The grief is real. The panic is real. The terror is real. But all of it moves through a pre-established channel. Cersei does not search for the killer. She does not wonder. She does not investigate. She does not stop to think. She activates. The scapegoat is already chosen. The narrative is already prepared. The guilty party has already been selected.
He poisoned my son. Your king.
This accusation does not emerge from shock. It emerges from a system. Defensive attribution. The psychological tendency to blame others for negative outcomes and credit the self for positive ones. When Joffrey was alive and cruel, that was his nature, his evil, his monstrosity. Cersei was not responsible for the monster she created. But now he is dead, and Cersei must account for that death. She cannot say, "My son was unstable and I made him worse." She cannot say, "I have failed to protect my family." She cannot say, "I have raised a creature incapable of being loved or trusted." Instead, she must say, someone murdered him, and that someone was already marked, already positioned, already waiting to be blamed. Tyrion is guilty not because he poisoned the wine. He is guilty because Cersei's psychological survival depends on his guilt. He is guilty because he is the scapegoat, and scapegoats exist to absorb the blame that no one else can bear. But here is what the show never told you. In A Storm of Swords, the novels offer access to Cersei's mind in the days and weeks before this wedding. And what the book reveals is not a woman blindsided by grief. It is a woman who has already built her case. She has already positioned herself to blame Tyrion. She has already prepared the narrative. The show presents the accusation as spontaneous. The book shows it as inevitable. The final move in a game Cersei has been playing for months. If you're still watching past this moment, you understand that Cersei's accusation was not born tonight. It was born the day Tyrion was recognized by Tywin as a legitimate son. It was strengthened every time he survived, every time he succeeded, every time he refused to be broken. The accusation at the Purple Wedding is simply the moment when Cersei finally has permission to weaponize what she has always believed. Like this video if Cersei's ruthlessness chilled you. Subscribe if you want to understand how scapegoating works inside families, inside power structures, inside the systems that destroy people. Now let me show you what else the show buried. The first revelation is an omission that completely reframes the timeline. In ASOS, the weeks leading up to the Purple Wedding show Cersei consumed by a specific obsession. She is convinced that Tyrion is plotting against the crown. She has no evidence. She has only suspicion and a pre-existing need to see him as dangerous. The show skips these weeks entirely. It puts us directly into the wedding feast, where Cersei is already isolated, already bitter, already watching Margaery steal her son. The book shows us the construction of the scapegoat. The show shows us only the weaponization. This omission matters because it obscures a crucial truth. Cersei's guilt finding is not reactive. It is not an emergency response to unexpected loss. It is a system that has been operating all along, gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for the moment when she can finally act. The show makes the accusation look like madness. The book reveals it as method. The second revelation is a softening that hides Cersei's active role in the destruction of her son's character. In the book, Cersei's relationship with Joffrey is characterized by a specific kind of damage. She has given him everything except genuine love. She has given him power without wisdom, cruelty without purpose, obedience without respect. She has raised him to be a weapon, and now the weapon is broken. The show portrays Cersei as a grieving mother who simply loved her son too much. The book portrays her as a woman who used her son as an instrument of her will and is now faced with the wreckage of that choice. The show protects us from Cersei's complicity in her own tragedy. The book forces us to see that Tyrion is not guilty of creating the monster. Cersei is. And in that gap between the show's version and the books, Cersei's accusation becomes not the response of a broken mother, but the deflection of a woman who cannot face what she has done. The third revelation is a timeline reversal that destroys the shock narrative entirely. In the show, Cersei's suspicion of Tyrion intensifies only after Joffrey dies. The accusation seems born of desperation, born of needing someone to blame. In the book, Cersei's suspicion of Tyrion has been building for weeks before the wedding. She has already assigned him guilt. She has already prepared the emotional infrastructure for his conviction. When Joffrey dies at the wedding, Cersei is not improvising an accusation. She is confirming one. The book's Cersei has already decided that Tyrion is guilty of something. Joffrey's death is simply the moment when she finally has the legal framework to act on that decision. The reordering means that Tyrion's trial begins not at the Purple Wedding, but weeks before it. In Cersei's mind, in her paranoia, in her need to identify a family villain. The fourth revelation is Cersei's hidden interior monologue about her relationship with Tyrion. In the book, Cersei does not think of Tyrion primarily as a rival or a threat to her power. She thinks of him as a mirror. He is the part of the Lannister family that refused to be absorbed into her narrative of power and control. He is the part that survived her cruelty. He is the part that can name what she is doing. And in Cersei's mind, this makes him the most dangerous person in her world. Not because he has political power, but because he has truth. The accusation of poisoning is not ultimately about a cup of wine or a political assassination. It is about silencing a witness. It is about destroying the one person who has refused to accept Cersei's version of reality. It is about removing the scapegoat from the family system entirely, so that Cersei can finally be free to rewrite her own history. When you stack all four revelations on top of the scapegoating mechanism, the scene transforms into something far darker than grief. You now understand that Cersei's accusation was not spontaneous. It was systematic. You understand that Tyrion was not selected as a target because of evidence. He was selected because he had already been designated as the family scapegoat years ago. You understand that the real crime Cersei is accusing him of is not murder. It is refusal. Refusal to break. Refusal to submit. Refusal to let her control the narrative. When Joffrey dies, Cersei does not need to find a killer. She needs to activate the system that has been waiting for this moment all along. The book teaches us that scapegoating is not spontaneous or emotional. It is structural. It is the way damaged systems survive. It is how people who cannot face their own failures find someone else to carry the weight. Cersei cannot face that she created the monster Joffrey became. She cannot face that her control was always an illusion. She cannot face that she is not powerful. She is only cruel. So she finds someone to blame. And that someone was already waiting, already positioned, already condemned by the architecture of her own psychology. In the modern world, scapegoating operates inside every damaged system, inside families, inside workplaces, inside communities. One person is designated as the problem. Every failure gets attributed to them. Every success gets credited to the system. The scapegoat becomes the repository for all the shame and fear and inadequacy that the group cannot bear to acknowledge in itself. Cersei did not invent this mechanism. She learned it. She inherited it. But at the Purple Wedding, she weaponizes it with absolute precision. The real lesson is this. Watch for the moment when someone suddenly becomes certain. Certain of another person's guilt. Certain of another person's malice. Certain without investigation or doubt. That certainty is rarely born of evidence. It is born of need. Someone needs that person to be guilty. Someone needs that person to be the villain. And that need will create a conviction so powerful that it will seem like fact. Here's the question. Cersei had already decided Tyrion was guilty weeks before the wedding. So when she accuses him at the Purple Wedding, is she responding to evidence, or is she finally activating a sentence she had already pronounced? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next.